We finally have another all-time high for Bitcoin, but that's actually not the thing that I'm paying most close attention to because altcoins are doing something pretty interesting and it's going to be very telling to see what happens, particularly over the next couple of days, because as we of course already know, Bitcoin has been putting in all-time highs. We're seeing another rally right now that could see potentially another all-time high or two within this coming couple of days. But we are seeing altcoins also potentially try to make a breakout. They've seen the first weekly close above the 2021 all-time high that we've seen in a very long time. However, if we look at the daily candles, it does still look like there is potentially some risk that we do see a move back to the downside. So I want to talk about all of that specifically, and then also just take a quick look at the crypto bubbles to see where things are looking today. So we'll go on and we'll jump right on in talking about that first. Here we can see, of course, a green day here. We're seeing probably about a 5-ish% average move. Obviously we have some a bit higher than that, and then we obviously have some a bit lower than that. Maybe it's more close to like 3 or 4% now that I kind of look at more of what we're seeing here. But we are seeing, of course, a pretty strong green day here. Of course, a couple of reds here and there, but a lot going on here in terms of green. We can see Solana up about 2%. It's behind my picture, but you'll see right there, up about 2%. We've got Ethereum up about 3%. We've got Bitcoin up about 1.5%. And then we, of course, have some of these smaller ones, even up above 10%. We are seeing a decent move from KAS as well, up about 6% on the day after a relatively kind of meh kind of month. Obviously, we've just been kind of bouncing around, but we have seen some pretty good news from some testing. I actually will have a video coming out later today if you want to hear more. We're going to have kind of an altcoin mega update, talking about many of the altcoins we've been talking about over the past weeks and months, and just kind of going over all of them and where things stand as we are staring down the barrel of new all-time highs for the total 3 market cap. So if we look at the Bitcoin chart, we can see here $125,500 is the price as of right now currently. Things are looking pretty good. I'm feeling pretty good about what we're seeing here. I think things are, they're trending in the right direction. If we go look at more of like the hourly candles instead of the daily, you will see we had that kind of first jump. It was like a squeeze up to all-time highs almost. And then we had a little bit of a pullback below this kind of previous all-time high level of resistance. And then we actually broke, retested, and are now kind of seeing a further move back to the upside. As mentioned, we are getting close to kind of retesting that all-time high range. We actually kind of are right now. So we'll have to see kind of exactly what happens here, but things are looking pretty good for Bitcoin. We could see kind of a continued bleed to the upside. If we go back and look at the daily, you'll see it's been a really pretty consistent move for Bitcoin basically ever since April. You can see here, obviously we had this pullback range where we saw highs kind of up above 120, or I guess 110, and then we saw a pullback all the way back into the mid 70s. And then since then, it's basically just been a slow grind up. We have seen, as Bitcoin loves to do, we have seen some of these kind of descending channels here. Again, this is just a super quick drawing, but you can see Bitcoin loves the descending channels. And so this is something, that it does like to do repeatedly. And then, of course, we have seen that breakout from this most recent one here. And then, again, who knows how high it will go, but things are looking nice. Things are looking very nice. So let's go ahead and take a look at the trade that we opened here on Bitcoin. We just did a 3x because, again, at the point in time, you could see we opened our trade right at almost the exact bottom here. So let's go into full screen. We can see kind of exactly what we saw over a couple days back here. I'll actually move to 4 hours, so we've got a smaller time frame here, or some fewer candles here. But you can see we actually entered in on that 3x almost at what turned out to be the pico bottom of the market here, and then we've seen just an absolute fantastic run up since. So we only did 3x just because we were kind of at a point where we were looking, obviously things were looking oversold. Things were looking to be at a point where I wasn't expecting to go much lower. I think we ended up buying in this range, and so we did actually go lower, but not too much lower. We did lower leverage at this point because if we kind of broke through this level, there was a very high chance we went all the way back to 107, and then potentially if we look even further back, potentially we were going back even into like the 100s being kind of the low down here, and then potentially even below that. So we did 3x just because we not looking to hit liquidated or anything like that, and so we wanted to just essentially make sure we had some sort of space here in case we saw a further move to the downside. We're only on 3x and it's looking all right. But as you can see, we did go and we locked some profit in here already, and we are looking up about 44% right now. So a decent bit of profit as well. And our stop loss is already at entry. So things are looking really, really good on this Bitcoin trade. We'll just let it run for a while. Things are looking good here though. So I'm feeling pretty good about where we're at with it. So if you are interested, of course, and would like to follow along with any of these trades, or maybe have any of your own trades that you're looking to make, again, I'm not providing calls or solicitations to buy anything like that. Now, if you are looking at following along with these, or even looking to make investments or trades of your own, again, this is not a solicitation to buy. I don't provide calls or anything like that. But if you are interested, I do have those links in the description below, giving you fantastic sign-up bonuses, both to Weeks, BTCC, and BloFin. I currently, as you were seeing on the screen, am using Weeks, but BTCC by far does have the best trading bonuses and sign-up rewards. So if you are interested, feel free to check the link in the description below, and you can go on ahead and get signed up and started trading there. Now, moving along, I want to kind of wrap up into what we're seeing coming out of altcoins here, because what we are seeing coming out of altcoins is very, very important. It's great news to see, because this point here at the 1.16 trillion is essentially the all-time highs that we have seen in 2024, late 2024 back in December, and then this 1.13 trillion is the highs that we've seen back in 2021. So we've actually broken above and held above 2021 for a while now, which is good because we saw this happen a little bit earlier, but then ultimately got rejected. We now have actually put a pretty strong move up above this level, and currently on this candle, we are about to close above what the all-time high back in 2024 was. So things are looking really, really good here. You can see we've been rejected multiple times in the past. So if we were to see this break and close above, then that would be a pretty good sign that we're going to be seeing an altcoin breakout here. And then again, that's not going to say that all altcoins are going to go, we're going to see 30% a day gains out of altcoins. This is just going to show us that we are seeing the total market cap, excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum, move out and enter into price discovery above the previous all-time highs. So that, of course, is going to be really, really good to see. And that's why I've said at the beginning of the video that what happens over the next couple of days is going to be really important, because, of course, we need to see this close above the line. Anything could happen. It looks like at this point in time we might, but again, it is crypto. Anything could happen, and we could see another wick kind of like this. But if we do see that close, then we're going to want to see some continued moves and some continued strengths to the upside here that ideally we'd be looking to see over the next little while. So again, time will tell. We do not know for sure exactly what's going to happen, but it does look like we are seeing some pretty nice moves. Now, moving along, I want to do a couple of news updates as well, because we're seeing some things that I think could kind of add some fuel to the fire for this type of stuff. So the first one here is going to be a Solana and Ethereum type of news. Here we can see that Grayscale is launching the first spot staking crypto ETP for Ethereum and Solana in the US, which is, of course, huge news, because right now what we're seeing with the ETFs is Ethereum and Solana, but they're not stakeable, right? And a lot of the benefit currently in both Ethereum and Solana is the fact that you can stake them and earn a yield there. And so the really important piece with this is that's now being unlocked, and I think those are going to see far more success than what we saw out of the Ethereum and Solana ETFs, just because those really lagged some adoption, because anybody who's I would say really involved within the crypto space knows that they can take their coins and they can stake them to add some additional yield on top of that, which is of course going to be meaningful in that type of situation. So overall, I do think that these staking ETPs are going to be much, much more successful than what we've seen out of kind of the non-staking ones. So I'm going to be watching that very, very closely. Essentially having them launching right now will give us a bit of a roadmap in terms of what's going to happen. Now, moving along here, we also can see at this point in time that the BlackRock CEO Larry Fink says crypto will hit 15 trillion this cycle. who knows, right? I mean, it's hard to say exactly for sure where they're getting these price targets and things like that, but that would be great to see. We'll have to see, but overall, if we go back and we look at the total market cap, this is essentially what Larry Fink is saying will hit 15 trillion. That's over a 3x from here. We are currently at a $4.24 trillion market cap. So seeing the entire crypto space 3x would be an absolutely monumental move here. And that is, of course, what Larry Fink is currently forecasting. Now, again, who knows? Nobody can tell the future. Nobody can predict with absolute certainty. But it would be very interesting to see that if we saw that happen, where do we see much of that come from, right? Are we going to see essentially every coin 3x? Do we see maybe Bitcoin go up 50% from here, ETH 2x, Solana 4x, XRP 3x, stuff like that, and then we see micro caps going up 50, 100, 200x? Hard to say for sure, but I do think that things are rounding out to be a really, really solid run. However, I will say, not to throw caution into the wind, I am seeing so many people saying that, Q4 is going to be that epic bullish run up. Q4 is going to be the point where you need to sell all your crypto and make all your money, things like that. Just be very, very careful whenever there's a consensus take that might be coming into the market, because if we see all of this stuff start to happen, it's very, very unlikely that, that everybody's going to say, okay, this is the top, and then everybody gets to get out, and then it all falls from there. Usually these massive crashes happen because nobody's expecting it, and so just be very, very careful, and things are not always as they seem, I guess I should say. So just try and keep an eye out of what that could mean and how that unfolds. I, of course, cannot tell the future, so I don't know quite yet, but I am very cautiously optimistic and going to be looking forward to seeing, kind of how things develop from here. So overall, hopefully you found the information useful. If you did, of course, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, all that type of good stuff. It does, of course, help me out. And then if you have any comments or questions, anything that you would like me to discuss more of, anything you'd like me to discuss less of, all that type of stuff, I'd love to hear that in the comment section below. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.